everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Small Business Success Talk. I'm your host, Christy Smallwood. I'm based in Louisville, Kentucky. Not that, that's important or anything, but I do kind of like to say it every once in a while because a lot of people don't know how to say Louisville. Go ahead and try it. Louisville. That's what we are around here. Um, the Small Business Success Talk show is a show that focuses on small business owners and their stories, how they got there, what they love to do, why they do what they do, how's it going, things that they have challenges with, how they've gotten over those. Because every single episode, you are going to be able to take away some tidbit of things that you can apply to your own life and business based on the success and advice of others. And I just want to be able to use this as a platform to spotlight and showcase them because they deserve all the attention that they can get. They are working hard at being the backbone of the American economy. So why not? In this episode, because I'm going to get right to it today, I'm trying to streamline my own conversation here. Like, just get to the point, Christy. Will do. My guest today has been an absolute delight for me to get to know her. In our green room time, we had such a blast on the front end and the back end of the actual interview. I got to learn more about her and being a stepmom and being a professional blogger. But I also got to hear her credentials, if you will. So all of her career expertise. So she does have, marketing and advertising experience, and she's done a lot of other things that we did not actually talk about. Like, we skimmed right over a bunch of those kinds of things in this episode. So when you get to know my guest this time, Anna Kate Goshko, and she's originally from Alabama. She's moved to Louisville about 10 years ago, I found out. So she's not brand new to the area. So she's not a brand new transplant. But we were talking about different things in the area to do after in the green room. And she loves elephants. You're going to see a picture of an elephant on the wall. Being from Alabama kind of makes sense. But we also talked about in our green room of the meanings behind that. And one of the most significant things for me for her is that she's taken her love of human connection, be it within her family or with others, and she has turned that into a meaningful digital business. How amazing is that? So we get to hear how that all started, and we get to talk fun things about it. And we also get to hear some of the great advice that she's gotten. And I want to give that to you by introducing you to my new guest, Anna Kate Goshko with southerncravings.com. So, Anna Kate, it's very nice to have you on Small Business Success Talk today. I want to get to know you a little bit more. I know that we got introduced through Deborah. So I'd love to hear about, how did you get started with this whole Southern Cravings thing? Tell me a little bit about your backstory.
Okay, so Southern Cravings is a Southern food and lifestyle recipe website. And it is mostly made up of old family recipes that have been passed down to me for several generations through my Nana, my mom, my grandfather. And so I wanted a way to document those things and those memories and the recipes that we all had growing up and we had when we were together. And so that's kind of how Southern Cravings got started. And now it's kind of evolved and grown on its own. And now I've got more things that you can cook on a daily, weekly basis, like air fryer recipes, slow cook recipes, braising recipes. It just kind of runs the gamut. So I started off as a stepmom blog. And so when I got into that, talking about the challenges of being a stepmother as I am, I realized that wasn't really the direction that I wanted to commit to. There's just so many different nuances and situational circumstances, if you will, that I just felt like I wasn't able to talk about in the way that I would want to.
Right.
So I kind of shifted. And at that time, my stepson was getting interested in what I was doing in the kitchen. he was a really picky eater. So he wanted to know about every single little detail that was going into his food. So I started to involve him. And of course, I'm Southern. I was born and raised in Alabama. So I wanted to incorporate the Southern aspect of my upbringing and, shine some light on the ways that we can kind of help our kids branch out, and then also provide, just different recipes that are quick and easy, approachable, just really any kind of cook could make.
So I'm really interested in, you are the first blogger I've had on the show. So if you don't mind, let's talk about the business side of blogging for a hot minute.
Okay.
What does that even look like? I mean, it does it start as a hobby and then you're like, oh, can I, like, people actually, like, how do you turn that into something?
Oh, well, I think it varies for different people, right? So people will have different goals. For me, I knew it was possible. I had a friend that was already kind of in the blogging world. I knew it was possible to make an income. And I think that that's why I pushed myself. But I think really it has to be something that you're passionate about before you even take it to a business perspective, if you will. So blogging looks a lot like wearing 15,000 different hats in one day. Nobody starts off with a team. Nobody starts out with a profit. Everybody's taking a loss. That's what you have to remember when you're starting, a website or any kind of business.
Oh, so welcome to small business.
Yeah, welcome. You'll be broke and tired for the first couple of years. And then probably after that, every now and again. And you just kind of have to ride the waves, right? So you will be your own social media manager, your business manager, your boss, your CEO. You'll be your assistant, the appointment scheduler, the writer, the website developer. You will be all of those things. And I had a background, my degree is in marketing. So I had a background in marketing and public relations. So I had that step up, but I had no idea what to do with a website. I didn't know how to build one. So I kind of pulled together little tidbits of learning how to code.
Oh, I
So
love you.
I know enough to be really, really dangerous, as in
Uh,
break the entire website. But yeah, you learn as you go and you ride those waves.
I mean, that's really how a lot of my guests have started out. Nobody had their proverbial shit together before you got started.
No, nobody does. And if you wait until you have it all together, you will never get started. You will just be sitting there and waiting.
Just wishing it will happen.
Yeah.
And yeah. So when you did that, you shifted from the step parent to this recipe blog. What got you talked into do starting the second one? Like, I understand the passion behind wanting to share recipes, right? But what about it? Why did you choose the blog aspect and not some other aspect first?
I'm not really sure I considered any other aspect of it. I think I just I love to write. From my background and everything. I love to be creative. And so I think it was just a no-brainer for me. I knew that I wanted to write, and I knew that I wanted to talk about food all day and think about food all day long. And still be hungry for like 7 meals a day. I don't really know how I do that. But it just seemed like a really obvious move for me. So yeah, I saw the opportunity and I kind of jumped right in.
Nice. So, tell me some things that you love most about it. I know that you love to write and you love food, but what else what are the other things that you really enjoy about doing what you're doing?
So the besides food, I really love food, really love to eat. But one of the things that I love most is connecting with people that I would have never have met on the internet. So I published a couple of recipes that are very old school. Like my grandmother taught me how to can tomatoes the old school way. Before there was she grew up without electricity, and so that's how she learned how to can her vegetables. And so
Oh,
she
she
taught
didn't
me
do a
how to.
pressure cooker thing?
No. Mm-mm. And you can still do that. It is completely safe. It's the same chemical reaction, but that's a whole nother podcast. It's a whole nother soapbox for me. But I shared that, and I shared a really traditional roasted leg of lamb recipe that my grandfather actually used to prepare. And it's kind of a spinoff of his. But I had these older women reaching out to me going, I've been looking and trying to remember how to prepare these recipes. And I remember my grandmother canning tomatoes the same way, and I couldn't remember how to do it. Thank you so much for publishing this. You've taken me back to my childhood and given something for me to hold on to. And I'm like in tears reading the comments of a blog post. But that's the thing that like just shoots me to the moon. Like it makes me want to do more. It makes me want to write more. It makes me want to publish things that mean something to someone, not just the latest and greatest, trendiest recipe. It's really more about feeling and emotion, soul food, not just country food, but soul food that, just makes your heart pitter patter.
Right. I love that. Okay, so let's dive in on the food thing because now I'm starting to get I had breakfast. However, I was like, ooh, let's talk about food. I like to talk about food when I'm getting creative. I've been in a creative
Honestly,
mood.
so.
Yeah, let's talk about food. What are some of your favorites? What's been like one of your top three, top five things that has been passed down to you that you just absolutely can't live without love?
Okay, cornbread dressing,
Oh,
hands down. That is a really old deep South recipe, the way that I do it. And I do it, it's not stuffing. It doesn't go inside of a bird. It goes in a casserole dish. It does not come out of a box. It is a labor of love. It takes a couple of days to make. Like you can't just throw it together in an hour or
oh
anything.
wait, you're not using a Jiffy mix?
Oh no. Mm-mm. We make that cornbread with I always use Martha White. So that's my favorite cornmeal mix. So you make the cornbread in your skillet, and it's going to be crisp around the outside. It's not sweet cornbread like we have in the Midwest. So you make your cornbread, you crumble it up, you got to let it turn stale. And then you have to get breadcrumbs. You have to tear those apart and let those become stale overnight. And then you have to make all of the rest of the ingredients, which is just sauteing and mixing together. And then you combine that with the bread, and you have to let that sit overnight. And then you can bake it, and then you can eat it. And it is super like moist. I know people hate that word, but it is. I don't want to say juicy because it's not, that would be weird. And it's got like these crisp edges and crisp on the top. Like it is just, it is just the most beautiful, magnificent thing to me. And we have it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I was talking with my mom, I'm like, why don't we make this more? Why do we just reserve it for Thanksgiving and Christmas? But it's also probably one of the reasons it's my favorite recipe.
I mean, it sounds like that dish is an absolute labor of love. Like
It is.
you have to not only love what that food is, but like the reaction that people get with it, because that's to me, multi-day things, that's a lot of work. I have to remember to come back to, of course, I'm doing other things too, but you have to remember that that thing's there that you got to do to feed people, but to get a reaction, like everybody loves it. I do that with chocolate covered cherries. So I figured out how to, oh, yeah. And I figured out how to make not where you just dunk the cherry in the chocolate and let it sit. No. So I make the coating, and it's for me, that's a multi-day process because I cheat the other systems. They make them it's an so if anybody's looking out there, it's Amish chocolate covered cherries. So whenever you create the powdered sugar covering, and they say to roll it in a ball, flatten it out, and cover the cherry with this powdered sugar, and then you dip that. Well, I did that, And they turned out so big. It took like 3, 4 bites to eat it. And it was like through the roof powder sugar. And I was like, that's not going to help the situation at all. Like, no, it didn't work out the way I needed it to. I was like, how can I thin that down? So I just thinned it out. But what I do is I dry the cherries. So that takes time. I freeze them and then bring them back out, make the powdered sugar coating, refreeze so
Oh,
it's thin. So instead of having them wrapped, I've dipped them, frozen it, and then I'm still trying to perfect the actual timing of the chocolate coating because I can't dip and do the fork thing because the powdered sugar is so thin, it like dissolves in the chocolate and then it makes messes up my chocolate. So I'm working on how to create a system to smoothly put the chocolate on there. Otherwise, they just look messy right now, but they are so good because they're equal parts. Like the cherry needs to come out. It can't be powdered sugar heavy. That's only so you have a little bit of sweet going on. My uncle, so I did this, tested them out because my mom loves chocolate covered cherries. And I had no idea that my uncle loved chocolate covered cherries. So my up in our area, we're Amish country up here. Southern Indiana has plenty of Amish families, and one Amish family has a store. My uncle would ride his bike 8 miles to this store to get these Amish chocolate covered cherries and come back home. And that would be his thing like once a month. I never knew this until like 2 years ago at Thanksgiving, or my mom mentioned it. And I was like, are you kidding? I can make those for him. And she's like, why don't you make some? Because his birthday falls on Thanksgiving week and we'll see how this goes. I made these chocolate covered cherries and I handed him to him. I said, here, happy birthday. He's like, what's this? I was like, Mom, my mom says, oh, they're chocolate covered cherries. And he's like, just tearing open the box. And I was like, and then he pops one in his mouth and he's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I was like, are you making fun of me? Right? Because he's such a jokester that I didn't know. I thought he was kidding. I thought he was totally like, these are horrible because he was over dramatic about it. And he's like, no, these are the best things I have ever eaten in my entire life. And I was like, what?
oh, that's so wonderful.
It was that. And I was like, to your credit on sharing these recipes and bringing all of this together, that's the power of food and relationship. Like when somebody finds their thing and you know that they love the thing, you love them, you want to give them the thing, right? And I now have that for him. So now he gets a chunk of them on special occasions because he does not need that stuff every day. Nobody needs those every day.
Nobody does.
So what are some others? So we talked about cornbread.
So my 3-day recipe. I also love a good 15-minute air fryer recipe. Did you know you can reheat pizza in the air fryer?
Yes, I did. That's my life.
Yes. Yeah. For those who are listening, I just gave you a whole new world to explore. You will never be the same. No, I love actually chicken nuggets in the air fryer, like those little chicken
Yeah.
bites or pieces, nuggets, whatever. Not the dinosaur shaped or anything, but like to put on a salad, make a fried chicken salad. Like that's really a staple here in our home, if I'm completely honest. So, air fryer, like chicken. Let's see. Another one that I've made that is not quite up yet. So I'm going to give everybody a little teaser. Fried pork chops. So easy to do. And I'm not a fryer. Like I didn't grow up in a home where my mom was deep frying chicken or cornbread or anything like that.
Really?
We
Okay.
never, I can probably count on one hand how many times we had fried chicken or fried anything in our house growing up. It was just not something that we did. But I found a hack for frying pork chops. So, you like the really thin pork chops for if you're going to fry them because it doesn't take very long. But I use croutons instead of panko or breading. So
Huh.
you pulse your croutons in a food processor and do your egg wash. You can do, I think I do egg wash, flour, egg wash, croutons. and then you just fry them a couple minutes on each side. I'm telling you. And the croutons are already seasoned, so
Right.
flavor. And it's easy. I mean, like it kind of smells like a fried food restaurant in there for a little while, but it tastes amazing.
That sounds amazing. So you've you've brought out some of these old recipes. What is a like I know we talked about the dressing. What do you do? Like, how many old recipes have you found that you've been able to share that's been passed down?
Um, Probably a solid 10 to 20. I would have to look. I've got about 150 on my site right now. So total. So probably about 20 to 30 recipes that I've either discovered through old cookbooks that I have or gone, oh, I remember when she used to make so and so. And then from there, I just kind of do some research and, compare other recipes to her recipe and make my own and, just kind of tweak and work with it. And then it develops into um, a nod to that very old traditional recipe.
Have you ever so when I looked at your site and we're starting to talk, like the picture that comes in my head is the old index cards or the small scraps of paper that the recipe had been wrote down on. And there have been people, I look at Pinterest, let's make no mistake, that's my guilty pleasure. But there are decorating ideas where they've taken that old card and superimposed it on the wall as part of the decoration in the kitchen.
Oh, wow.
So now the handwriting of your great grandma is now on your wall in the favorite recipe. So
That would be an amazing Christmas gift.
exactly. Or
Yeah.
anything along those lines. If there's something that dear to your heart, you could take that recipe and recreate it in a home decor kind of thing. So I've thought about this. Some people have even put them on plates. So now you're eating the rest, like when you get the
Oh,
food is on the plate with the recipe on it.
that's sweet. That's really
Yeah.
sweet. We actually, my mom had a recipe tin from my Nana. She passed probably about 10 years ago. And so my mom just kept the tin and she kind of already had all of her recipes that she was really familiar with. And so one Christmas, I started sifting through them and it is literal scraps of paper. I mean, it is. It on one side it'll say mom went swimming at Mimi's, and then on the other side it'll say 425 chicken, da, 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 like it'll have all these things. So she was such an interesting person, and she is also one of my biggest inspirations for a lot of the recipes I put out. And I so wish I had been able to know her as an adult, like an actual adult, not just as 18, 19-year-old kid. But she just was so unique and peculiar in those ways that she would write down walnuts at, so and so street and then have a recipe on the back. It's like, what were you ADD or something, man?
Quite possibly.
Yeah, well, she probably was knowing her. But so, yeah, I mean, so all of those things are so special to hang on to. And it's easy in the moment to look at them and go, oh, it's just a scrap of paper, whatever, toss it. But, fold those things up and put them in a box, and somebody will love to have them one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I love being able to pass those around the family and to hand them down. And I do still have my mama is around, and whenever we talk, our favorite subject to talk about is food because it makes her happy. It shifts the energy when you talk about your favorite food.
Yeah.
And she loves to tell me the latest thing that was and her favorite phrase about anything that she's eaten that she enjoys nowadays is the best damn thing she ever put in her mouth.
I love it.
And it could be anything from a pork tenderloin to some sort of a dessert or anything. Because I remember the first time she said it, she had was the first time she fixed drunken chicken on a grill. So you stick the beer can
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
up the buttons, smoke the chicken. That's what she called the drunken chicken. So it's like, okay, This is our relationship.
We have a couple of those funny sayings that we always toss around too. Like my uncle always says, "It ain't gonna be no good." In this voice, like I cannot even reenact it, act it, so I'm not even gonna try. But he always says, "Ain't gonna be no good," and he knows it's gonna be good, and he's teasing. But it's just funny how you get those little isms in your family and you pass them down.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what's been one of the biggest challenges you've had about getting all of this off the ground and growing it?
Um, I would say money. I mean, you have to spend money to make money at some point. But as far as just like an everyday challenge, it's just been trying to do it all. And fighting the noise, fighting all of the consumption. Like we have so much to consume between Instagram, our email inboxes, websites, other blogs, Facebook groups. I mean, it's just hitting you from everywhere. So there comes a time where you have to put the blinders on and just focus on the things that exactly what you know is going to work in your business. And sometimes that also takes trial and error and wasting money and spending money on something that may not work. But that's okay. I mean, as long as it's not an irresponsible amount of money. But
See, that's where I come in for people because I work strategy and I'm like, that may not be the best idea ever. Why don't we try smaller steps so you don't like go bankrupt in the process? That'd be
yeah,
great. Yeah.
absolutely. And to talk about finances as far as from a business perspective for a second. I mean, I'm a firm believer that you should not be taking out a loan in your first little jump. I feel like that's a great idea in theory, but you're taking out a loan before you're even making money. So you need to focus on bringing in some kind of revenue, hacking it
Mhm.
all together with spreadsheets and free programs and whatever you got to do. Because if you start blowing money, you don't even have a strategy to make yet. You're going to end up bottoms up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And because you don't even know if what you're thinking you want to do is going to work in the marketplace. You don't know if people actually like there's been a lot of times, even I myself, I'm like, you're doing this for you right now. They don't care.
Yeah. I mean, we can all get hung up on those little bitty things, like little bitty colors on the website or this shape button or that shape button. In reality, people do not care. They just want to be able to go to a website or your Instagram page or whatever and click on the things and then they work. They're not, it's not
Yeah.
a beauty contest for a website. Functional, yes, beautiful, not absolutely necessary.
I need to be findable and functional. All good. Go from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love having this conversation, not just because it's food, but because there's so much human connection into this. And I know that we talk about recipes and those getting passed down. Other things that get passed down is advice. So what's some of the best advice you've ever received?
Oh my goodness. Dang, that's a really good question. I've been asked what's the worst advice you've ever received, but I think the best advice that I've received and that I can give now, just living through it, is to put your blinders on. You're going to need two things in business, and those are blinders and bootstraps. And you will use both of them often. So you need to put your blinders on to focus, keep your mind on your long term goal. Don't get hung up in trends and what's cool and what's working for so and so that's been doing what you're doing for 20 years. You can't compare your beginning chapters to someone else's last few pages. It's not attainable. Um, to put on blinders and then your bootstraps, you are going to fall and fail just like everyone else has.
Mhm.
And you're going to need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, pull yourself together, wash your face, and get back to work. Try it out if you have to. but you're going to have your ups and your downs, and you have to keep that end goal in mind. That's probably the biggest thing that I've been told. And I didn't quite understand that when I was starting out. I was like, well, right now I just want to be, number one, just for one recipe on Google. Well, okay, so now I've done that. So what's next? And then you go to the next step and the next step. Well, you can go through all of those steps, but what are you actually working for? So, I mean, you have to look at your long-term goal, like what you actually want. And for me, that was a sustainable business that I could provide for my family with, doing something that I love, check, check. And it is not lost on me on how fortunate I am to have been able to make that work. But I mean, you need all of those things to work together to reach your end goal. So keeping the end goal in mind is your biggest thing.
So what's your current end goal?
I knew you were going to hit me with that one. So a sustainable business, and one that can work without me working on it all the time. Those were two of my biggest things. And something that could earn me money when when I'm on vacation or, sick or whatever happens. But in terms of like the actual business, I want to write a cookbook one day. I want to be on the New York Times bestsellers for a Southern home cooked meal style cookbook. And I want to be in the classroom teaching people how to cook,
There we
how to
go.
host for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving and Christmas, and just really, expand my reach and my web, so to speak, and, help people nurture their families and care for themselves and others and that kind of thing.
So I definitely want to push people your way. So that's southerncravings.com. Is that right?
It is southerncravings.com. And then I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. And those handles are all the same. It's Southern Cravings Official. And you can find me there.
Awesome. All right. One last question for you, Anna Kate.
Okay.
What does success mean to you?
Success to me means doing something that you love and that is fulfilling and rewarding to you. It should be less about the monetary meaning and more about when you shut it off at the end of the day, are you excited to begin tomorrow?
I love that. That's a nice little wrap up.
And that
Thank
was
you
not rehearsed.
so Well done. Well done. Well, Anna Kate, it has been a pleasure chatting with you on this episode of Small Business Success Talk. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'd love to come back.
I want to check in on that cookbook.
Yeah, touch base with me in about 5 years.
Okay.
A 5 year
Deal.
plan.
I told you guys that for me was a fun conversation because it is fun to talk about your favorite foods. Let's make no mistake that when let's make no mistake, we all like to eat something. There is something that we have a special recipe for, and I love that she's honed in on that in the marketplace and is turning that into a very valuable piece of business. It's not just a recipe blog, it's a like hand me down recipes for generations, this good stuff that makes good connections with people through this digital channel. I love that she's got the background that knows how to piece all that together. And I really love that she gave great advice of, and I wrote this down, blinders and bootstraps. What she doesn't know is I might actually write a book about that because that is great. You have to have some blinders on so you can stay focused on that which is necessary to do. Don't go off into la la land. And she and I talked about that in the green room, in that it's so easy to be distracted with everything that's out there, just in the world of messaging and your marketing and whatever's on the TV, your any screen that you're looking at. The amount of messaging you're getting in a day is astronomical. How do you put the blinders on every single day when you need to focus on that which is important to do? Do that. Make a systematic effort to make sure you have concentrated focus time to do that which you need to get done in a day. And then the bootstrap aspect, absolutely. There's times that you are going to be knocked on your ass and you have got to be able to pull yourself up. We've talked before on this show with various guests about having a great support system. Having a business coach, which is one of the people hire me to do this for them because they know if they pay me, I'm going to be there to do it. But I also have a great support system that I'm part of with other friends. They get that. They know I'm there to have got their back more emotionally. So if they need to cry or they need to tell me crazy stuff, it's not focused on their business, but I'm still that person for them. I have those people for me. I have a coach. I have an accountability partner. I have friends that I go to. The support system's great, but 90% of the time, it is just me. And do I have what it takes with just me to pull myself up by my bootstraps and keep moving forward? Because nobody's going to do it for me. If it is to be, it is up to me. I learned that phrase a long time ago from somewhere, and I've just like, that's one of those reminders. If I really want this, then I have to get it started. I don't do everything by myself because I can't be as successful as I want to be by myself, and it doesn't happen in a vacuum. But if it is to be, I have to make that movement forward. So the bootstrap concept. Loved having this conversation with Anna Kate. And just so you guys know, whenever you can see her somewhere, if you ever get a chance to chat with her, she is an absolute delight. So go follow her, go see what she's got cooked up. See what I did there? At southerncravings.com. I can't wait for her to get her recipe book together because some of those things that she was talking about, especially canning tomatoes without the pressure cooker, I'm like, wait, what? I I know that there's good old-fashioned methods, what we call old-fashioned methods that are still solid methods of ways to do things nowadays, especially if you're, in that prepper mode of things, or just like me, I want to get back to having a garden in which I'm a single person. And I don't know if you guys know what happens to tomato plants, but the first time you get a tomato, it's all very exciting. And then next week you got 100 of them. You're like, I can't eat that many tomatoes in a week. So you start giving them away. Well, what if you could actually can them and store them for soups and chilies and stews and all these other things later? Having good methods in which to do that is great. And if I can do it without having to buy a pressure cooker, that'd be fantastic. So there's all kinds of things that you can learn from her in your regular life as well. I can't speak highly enough. It was just a great conversation. I appreciate your time today because I know that you take the time out to listen and learn and celebrate and share with these guests that I have on. I love that you're supporting this. Please continue to share us with your friends. Do not keep us a secret. Please continue to subscribe, hit the little bells, notifications, all that good stuff. And if nothing else, you can always find us on smallbusinesssuccesstalk.biz, smallbusinesssuccesstalk.biz. And keeping in touch with us, I promise I will have that fixed, I think, so that you can sign up for emails. I'll let you know when new messages are out and you'll actually get that notification in your inbox. That way we can, according to whatever schedule you've got, you can listen to us whenever you want. Thank you again for being a participant in this episode. I enjoy you. I enjoy this. And thank you for letting me be a part of your world. See you on the next episode of Small Business Success Talk. I've been your host, Christy Smallwood.